It was 2001, and I was driving down Interstate 40. I was driving down Interstate 40 feeling a little bit blah. I'd spent the last 10 years of my life working as the executive producer of these television documentaries on the environment. I was working for the Chancellor of the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. We filmed all along the eastern seaboard, all the way from Maryland to Florida. Our programs aired on public television, and I was the executive producer. So that meant that my job was to raise the money. I was a professional beggar. That's what I was. I put together proposals. I actually, would think about who to go to. I'd do this research on potential donors, and I'd make the big ask. All my friends thought, wow, that's a really cool job. But driving down the road that day, I knew something was missing. I knew that something was wrong. And so I started thinking to myself, I started asking myself, when was the last time I felt alive? When was the last time I felt fully engaged and in love with life? And I had two memories. And the first memory was when I was a child, growing up singing in my parents' band. My mother and father were musicians, and as children, my mother was 12. As a singer and my dad, a saxophone player, they met in a big band, jazz band. They became best friends, started dating a few years later, married at 18 and 20, had 4 daughters, and forced us to grow up singing in their band. At age 8, they would put evening gowns on us and make us go out singing, "Every time it rains, pennies from heaven." It was a cool way she wants to play it behind me. It was a cool way to grow up. My older sister and I would sit around with our acoustic guitars writing songs from the age of 12 through our 20s. But that day driving down the road, I couldn't remember the last time I had written a song. I also had a second memory. It was 1988, and I was the assistant volleyball coach for the UNC Wilmington Seahawks. I was standing on a table, a 4-foot table, on one side of the volleyball net with a ball in my hand, and my team was on the 10-foot line on the other side. And I would say, go, and one player would run across the court, and I would throw the ball out of her reach. She'd dive and pass it up, and then she'd have to sprint backwards to the back of the court. I'd throw it over her head. She'd have to pass it up, and then she'd run towards me, and I would hit it as hard as I could right at her head. It was my favorite drill in the entire world. The entire time they were doing it, I was encouraging them to run faster, dive further, take risks. I loved that job. I was in love with life during that time. I had known from a very early age, at an inner knowing, that I was going to be a college coach. So I followed that inner knowing, and I absolutely felt like I was living on purpose. When I was coaching, I was helping these young women stretch and grow and set goals and become more than they thought was possible. I absolutely was in love with life. Now, did I feel that way? The question is, did I feel that way because I was destined to be a volleyball coach? I don't think so, but I do think I was destined to coach. Here's the difference. Because when I was coaching, I was motivating and inspiring people, and that's what I believe I was born to do. See, I believe we're all born with divine gifts, and it's up to us to remember what those are and build our lives around them. Amen. Sometimes, though, life happens, years pass, and we forget what we're here to do. Well, that's what happened to me. So as I was driving down Interstate 40, I knew I wasn't using my primary gifts, but I didn't know what to do about it. I've been in Unity for about 15 years, so I thought, okay, I'll try some of these tools we learn in here. So I started doing more meditation, more affirmative prayer. And I tell you, 2 weeks later, the answer came to me in a form of a voice. Sometimes I hear voices, I don't know if you do. And the voice said, yes. Who said yes? Give me a high five. Way to go. The voice said this: you are to be a motivational speaker and an executive coach. You can use your music and weave it through your talks to motivate people, and you can use your gifts of inspiration to help executives. And I'm going, who is talking to me now? And how can I do that? Whenever you have an inner calling like that, though, that requires a lot of change, there's also a lot of fear and resistance that comes up, right? So the fear and resistance started coming up. I started hearing things like, I can't do that. Started talking to myself. No way. I like my life. I don't want to make a change. I don't have the time. No one wants to hear me speak. Who am I going to coach? I don't have the money to coach. It costs $3,000 to get a certification in executive coaching. But whenever you have an inner calling that's in regards to your gifts, the calling will keep coming, right? So it kept coming. I would see articles on my desk. It would just be there about executive coaching. I would throw them aside. I would see motivational speakers on television. I would turn the channel, but the call kept coming. People would say to me, can you coach me? I'm like, I can't coach. They're like, no, please coach me. I'm going, okay, wait a minute. If a big company comes along and pays for it, then maybe I will consider it. Careful what you say, right? And what you tell the universe you're willing to do. Then one day, I was on an airplane flying to a job. We were getting ready to take off, and I heard the person beside me say, hello, my name is Lisa. I'm like, no, please, no, I just want to sleep and wake up drooling on your shoulder. No, don't talk to me. But I heard that voice again, and it said, talk to her. So I turned around and I said, hi, I'm Elaine Penn. And you guys, it was like I was looking into the eyes of one of my soulmates. You ever meet a kindred spirit for the first time, and you know that person was there for you for a reason? We knew each other instantly. I see some recognition out there with some people. We started talking without ceasing. We talked about Unity Church. She went to Unity Church. We talked about spirituality. We talked about health and wellness. We talked about divinity within us. We talked about movies. We talked about everything. It was a 3-hour flight. 2 hours into the flight, she looks at me. She went, hey, you got to meet my boyfriend. He owns this executive coaching firm. He's looking for people like you to be coaches. I'm like, I'm not a coach. She said, no, listen to me. He's looking for people like you with your background and your passion and your experience and your heart to be coaches. You got to coach. You got to call him. And so I said, okay, thank you, finally. Okay, God, or universe, or angel, or spirit, or whoever's talking to me, I'm listening, I will do it. And so I called her boyfriend, and he immediately put me in touch with his vice president of coaching, and we hit it off, and we were getting ready to proceed with our relationship. And then they said, oh, you're not a staff member, you're a consultant. It's going to cost you. You still have to pay for your certification. It's going to be $3,000. I said, I don't have $3,000 right now. They said, okay, we'll pay for it. We will waive that fee. So a big company came along and actually paid for my coaching certification. And I tell you, I fought it a little bit, I kicked it, but when I listened and when I paid attention and when I knew it was tied to my gifts, that's when my life truly started to turn around. That started my coaching career. And today I coach people all over the country, and it's one of the most empowering and spiritual things I've ever done. Even if you're coaching people on business, it's transformative because it gets into the heart and it gets into the soul. And I feel like I'm living on purpose because I'm using my gifts of inspiration and motivation. I feel like I'm letting God move through me and co-creating with the divine. As far as speaking, a speaking agency picked me up in 2002, and I've been speaking to college audiences ever since. And with these two things in my life, I have to tell you, even though life is good anyway, I truly feel that love for life back again. I really do.